Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create environments and ecosystems where people thrive. Look, I have one of my good friends that's going to be joining us today. Tracy, how you doing?
I am great. I'm excited to be here, Kyle.
I'm excited as well. I know we had an opportunity to connect many times. You blessed us with your presence on the podcast-a-thon last November. I feel like that was many moons ago. And you're just doing literally phenomenal work. You're a phenomenal human being. And I'm super excited for everyone that listens in, that watches the video, to really just be able to learn not only what you do, but who you are, because there's so much light in who you are as an individual. Viola Davis said something last week that really spoke to me. She said in a speech that she was giving that purpose is not what you do. Purpose is how you make people feel when what you do. And you are that person that every time that we talk, every time that we connect, I feel inspired, I feel empowered, I feel reflective, and it forces me to really slow down and allows me to really be so that I can be able to be better, so that I can be able to produce better. But for people that don't know you at all, or don't know you in the way that I know you, can you describe who you are without using any titles or any accolades?
Absolutely. So first, Kyle, thank you. I'm humbled by those comments. So to introduce myself without using any titles or accolades, what I like to do is help people unveil their own potential and to build their confidence so they know who they are when they walk into a room.
Mm,
And when they walk into the room, that they change the feeling in the room for it to be positive, for it to be productive, and for people to leave and feel uplifted.
mm. One of the most powerful words that just hit me so hard that you mentioned in your introduction is the word unveil.
Mm,
And I'm reading this book, and I've mentioned this on one of the podcast episodes recently. I'm reading this book called A Men's Work by Connor Beaton. And at the beginning of the book, there's a quote mentioned by the psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Jung, and that success is essentially determined by one word: wholeness.
hmm,
And how we can't be successful if we're great in one way, but then we're miserable as a parent, or we're all doing this great and then we're dropping the ball on this end. And he wants us to really understand this idea of wholeness. But what really stuck with me about just the first chapter of the book is that they describe how personal development is not just about becoming. It's this season and this period of time that you go through of unbecoming and unveiling and revealing who you are, and this decomposing and decaying of who you are so that you can actually become the person that you're destined to be. So when you said that, it really spoke to me. But somebody listening in, where does this process of unveiling and creating this feeling and doing this work really begin?
mm. It begins with completing an assessment. And I know there are many assessments out there. I am certified by Multi Health Systems. They're based in Canada and they've been around for over 30 years. And their number one client is our beloved military.
Oh, wow.
So this is tried and true. And I'm certified for 6 years now. And when people take the 20-minute assessment, then they see, where do I fall or where do I rate in these areas of emotional intelligence?
Mm,
Starting with ourselves. Where is my self assurance? Where are my emotional expression? What about my interpersonal skills? All the way down to impulse control. Some
yeah,
people are so quick to respond, and yet we
exactly.
need that almighty pause.
Hmm.
So they take this assessment and then they meet with me one on one through Zoom and we go through their report. So this is the coaching part of my business.
Mm,
And they look at the report, and I always say, if this doesn't resonate with you, please let me know.
Yeah.
There's something called assessment fatigue. My gosh, how many times are they going to ask the same question in a little different way?
Yes.
So I can bring them over to, here's how you answered the questions. And that's when they say, oh, yes, Tracy, this does describe me. And so we go through the report. So that's the beginning part, is the, again, the assessment and then the report. And that's the coaching part of my business. And I also am a keynote speaker, and I do training workshops all around the foundation, or leveraging the foundation of emotional intelligence. Because we know that we have the IQ that helps you get the job, right? We need
Yep.
those technical abilities. And we also need our EQ, which is the measurement of emotional intelligence, to help us get promoted, to be better leaders, to increase our profitability, to decrease our retention, right? Decrease or increase, Kyle, which is it? You want to?
Well, we want to increase
You want
retention.
to increase your retention. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I botched that one up.
Let
So
me
that's what emotional intelligence does.
Let me ask you this, Tracy, because there's somebody listening in that is probably asking or thinking of similar questions that I would have.
Okay.
And my first thought here when you're describing this is, are there any throughways or intersections between leaders that you've worked with that have certain scores that are more productive or better leaders in cultivating the cultures within their organizations that create psychological safety? Or is it kind of all over the place?
Great question. And my number one response is, the more empathetic leader, the more people are going to stay at that organization. So
Really?
Empathy is the one, especially COVID, I think, taught us a lot about that.
I'm that leader that knows nothing about emotional intelligence. I'm that leader that's been working in this job for 25, 30 years, been managing the team and believing that everything's okay. Do I just begin with taking the test, or is there certain things, a mindset and attitude that I have to impart before I even approach this test so that I'm willing to actually do this work after the results that I receive?
So the number one thing that one person needs is an open mind.
Mm.
Are they taking this assessment because somebody told them to? Or are they taking this assessment because they want to unveil their own potential, that they want to see, where do I fall in these list of 15 different categories? Where do I fall? Where are my strengths? Because I always start with honing in on people's strengths.
Yeah.
And then where are those areas of opportunity? So it's having that open mind. I mean, you certainly know you can't coach somebody if they don't want to be coached. If they're told you must do this, that's right away. People are like skeptical. Why are they doing this? They could go down a rabbit hole of negativity.
So let me ask you this, Tracy. I was having a conversation with my dad this morning at breakfast, and he's definitely a boomer. So they have their own philosophies on therapy as men and that whole generation, and how it's not effective. And what would be the difference between someone going the EQ way and then someone just going to getting a therapist as well?
Sure. So I am not a therapist.
Yeah.
And I'm a coach, and you know this as a coach, that coaching is a partnership, that I ask the WH questions, right? The why, the when, the where,
Yep.
and how. I ask open-ended questions, and it's up for that person to come up with their own solutions, right? Where a therapist at times looks back, like, where are you with, or how are you feeling today? And they're deep in emotions. I am not a therapist, nor am I a mentor. A mentor typically looks way out into the future. I'm a coach, and through my coaching credential, asking those WH questions, the person is the one, my partner in crime, right? The client or the coachee, they're the ones that come up with their own answers. I'm the guide.
Why are companies, because EQ, emotional intelligence, is huge, not just in America but internationally. It's a major conversation that's happening, especially when we look at the landscape of mental health And, even millennials, the data out there that's showing millennials are leaving the workplace, and a lot of post-COVID trauma and just these experiences within the workplace. It's a major conversation, but I do still feel that organizations are not prioritizing this work. Why is that? And what can we do as leaders to debunk these myths that productivity can still work and be driven forward without really focusing in on the psychological safety and emotional intelligence across teams?
Mm-hmm. Why aren't people tapping into it? This is Tracy Solarek's view. I believe people are just getting to work and they're going through their task list, or maybe they can't even reach their task list. They're just putting out fires all day long. They're putting out fires. They're going to the shiny object. And maybe they think for a moment, gosh, I really have professional development for my team as a task for this year, a goal. But they're so busy. We're too busy.
Right.
And to take a step back and to say, what does my team need? Or more importantly, what do I need to do as a leader?
Exactly.
Where are my blind spots? So one avenue is to go to emotional intelligence and take the assessment. A second one, and I'm also certified in this, is a 360. And a 360 is exactly looking at around yourself. I take the assessment. So do my peers, my supervisors, it could be your board of directors, your direct reports. And you look at all of that data compiled together to say, aha, I see how other people see me.
Interesting.
To answer your question and to just reiterate, I think because people are just so busy, I believe budgets, people are keeping all their budgets really close in our economic environment right now. We don't know where we're going. And that's why I also have a free consultation. Let's talk through this. And I ask those important questions on what keeps you, your executive team, up at night. And I would say 90% of the time, it's my people. I'm worried about losing them. I'm worried that they're not motivated. I'm worried that they're my most important asset. And up until this point, I haven't done anything to nurture that.
I believe your people in your organization are your superpower. And I want organizations to really listen to what's being shared, because if we're not investing in our people, then we're leading our organizations to a place where they won't be able to be thriving. They won't survive, especially in the global landscape of this very competitive landscape that we're experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
What first pulled you into this work in the first place? Like, what was the moment? What was, you're the EQ queen is what I like to call you.
Thank you.
And I believe that if we are not really focusing on the EQ, we can't really be better leaders. And then if we're not better leaders, we can't drive our teams forward. And if we're not driving our teams forward, then we're not going to be able to drive our organizations forward. But what first got you into this work? And then, I'd love for you to even continue to expand on that and talk about like your younger self as a professional. Like, what was one of the biggest emotional intelligence skills that you needed to develop?
Wow, that is packed. Those are packed questions.
Yeah.
So my story is I received a 10% salary increase in July. 10%. Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
In September, my boss and the HR manager came to my office and they said, this is your last moment. Pack up your things and leave.
So in July, you got the 10% increase. And in that September, oh my goodness.
And in October, I was getting married. And that's when I said to myself, okay, I need to work through all of these emotions. And gosh, now I have time to spend more. I have more time to spend on the last minute details for my wedding. So my spouse then said, I'm retiring. Tracy, what can you do that's virtual? And I went, okay, what can I do that's virtual? I thought of DISC training. Many people have heard of the DISC program. And I researched that and I thought, there are a lot of people certified in DISC. I'm like walking into a landscape of competitors. And I reflected on emotional intelligence that a friend had brought it to my attention. And that's when I became certified. And when the trainer told me, Tracy, you will not be able to have a successful career as an emotional intelligence trainer. And I said, I'll prove you wrong.
I like
I
it.
said it to myself. So in telling that story, I hope that people see and hear all of the different emotions that I went through just in that very short time. And unbeknownst to me, I started my company in during COVID. It wasn't intentional, but then
Wow.
I thought, how do I turn that around?
Hmm.
And it was the CEOs that I worked for in the Albany, excuse me, the capital region, they know me and they had time. So they took the time to learn about what is Tracy doing now. And the reason why I just tripped up with Albany Catholic is my number one client when I first started was the Albany Catholic Diocese. That they hired me to be the keynote speaker and give a workshop and do the assessments for 50 members of the Albany Catholic Diocese.
Wow.
And then it
Wow.
was so successful, they received their grant a second year. So I did it 2 years in a row. So that's 100 members of the Albany Catholic Diocese that I have worked with. I'm very proud of that.
No, that's amazing work. I think like we can really learn a lot from leaders.
Mm.
And I believe that there's a throughway, whether you're in religious establishments, corporations, nonprofits, educational institutions, great leadership, there are certain traits across the board.
Yes.
But in your experience coaching leaders across the board, what is one of the biggest, I guess, emotional gaps that you see in leadership, especially today?
Emotional gaps.
Or even
I
emotional
would say,
intelligence?
yep, the number one thing is people don't know how they're being perceived.
Hmm.
And it's that self-awareness that they're just again going into that workplace and getting things done and not thinking through how am I showing up at work today?
That's good.
How does my mood affect other people, especially these high leaders? They don't realize at times how they truly, truly impact the entire environment.
That's good.
So yeah, people just don't realize how they're showing up. And also I'm going to add to that, I don't think people really consider their personal brand.
Hmm.
So is your personal brand the person that comes to work? Good morning. How are you doing today? Hey, how was your
Yeah.
weekend? And not just how was your weekend, but I understand that your daughter was just in a
Ha,
gymnastics competition. How did they do? Like
that's good.
building those interpersonal relationships versus just being that taskmaster or going after that shiny object or putting out that fire.
I love that you mentioned that because working with organizations, I know a lot about your leadership philosophy and your style
Mm.
right when I walk in the front door. Right.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
like when I think about other organizations, let's say I go to a school and I walk into that school and I'm not greeted. And I'm walking through the hallways and teachers are kind of just looking at me and kind
Hmm.
of walking, or people walk past me. It does share a lot about the leader within this organization. And I love how you mentioned something very simple, just not being a taskmaster, but being someone that greets people, being someone that asks people about how their weekend was, and being genuinely present and interested in the actual conversation. When you think about the work that it takes to be able to transition an organization from one that is focused on task and productivity, but to then being able to be one that is built on presence and inclusivity and conversations and listening and psychological safety, what do you think it takes to be able to get from that point to this point?
The determination of the people in the room.
Mm. Tell me more.
That I can work with people and I can share all of these different ideas and we can work on visions, vision boards, and the mission of the organization. But number one, I need people to come into the room and be ready and to
Mm.
leave their egos at the door and for them to say to themselves and to encourage the other people in the room, I'm here for change.
That's good. There's a leader right now listening in that wants to change the environment, or what I like to say, the conditions in which people work within their organization. They want to start, they want to do the work, but they don't necessarily know the day-to-day steps to take. What are 2 to 3 daily habits or daily decisions or behaviors that they can begin to implement today, so that beginning tomorrow, when they go out and try to do this work, it can at least start planting seeds of transformation within their organization?
Mm. So, for me and my advice to others, and as you know, as a coach, we don't give advice, right? You partner with people. Um, I would say, where is your mindset? And what do you need to do to get into your mindset for the day? For me personally, it's wake up, God willing, do some stretching exercises. I read motivational books, and then I journal. And I find, do I do it every day? No. But I find if I walk away from that and I'm not doing that routine, I am turned upside down, and I'm the one that's just putting out the fires, and I'm maybe doing some things on my task list. So my goal is to always be centered, and when I'm centered, that's when things explode. The other thing I'll offer, if I may, is I don't know if you know, Kyle, that I am a vocalist as well.
I did not know that.
So I hum this song to myself, and I've also started my keynotes and workshops with a phrase. And may I just sing that for you?
Let's do it.
Because this is the thing that really gets me centered. You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. That gets me motivated.
That's getting me motivated. Like, really, I'm glad this is being recorded, because I'm just going to clip that part up, and then that's going to be my new morning routine right there. How long have you been doing this in regards to that being your morning routine?
Oh my gosh, my morning routine, 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And there's so many CEOs and just leaders in general, and articles that I've even read that talks about the power of the morning. And I recognize, when I think back on some of my most productive days, and just the days where I end the night and I get ready for bed, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel so complete. I feel free. Like, my mind is clear. It started in the morning, like that first 30 to 45 minutes in the morning. And I challenge people that are listening in that dread mornings, because those are so important. So important. Let me ask you this. What's one leadership myth that you wish would disappear?
A leadership myth I wish would disappear. What's coming to mind is that the leader knows all. The leader doesn't. And I really believe in servant leadership, that the person that is answering the phones, could be even sweeping the floors or emptying the garbage, they have great ideas. Because your frontline people, or those behind the scenes, they're the ones that are likely working with your customers, your clients, etc. Your volunteers.
I love it. Mm-hmm. And I love that you mentioned that. And there's been so many perspectives given today, and even steps that we can take. And I think one of the ones that I recognize is that leadership is empathy, but we can't empathize if we're not willing to allow people to communicate, and us be willing to receive that feedback and listen, so that we can understand not only the needs of the organization, but the needs of the actual people that run this organization. And it really reminds me of what a great organizational culture looks like, what a great organization, like those best workplaces like in America, the top 50 or top 100 workplaces. Well, when you think about emotional intelligence, when you think about an organization that is really doing this work effectively, Like, what does a truly emotional intelligent organization look like?
One that takes the time to build their vision, build their mission, that they are keeping that at the forefront of their mind. That, we're not, again, putting out fires. I sound like a broken record, but they go back to that vision, go back to that mission, and that they are listening to their employees.
Listening. Anybody listening? You got to be listening. You have to be listening to your employees. You have to be listening to your teams. You have to be listening to others, because leadership isn't always about a title. Leadership is about understanding the needs of the organization, the needs of the team, and being willing to use that beautiful voice of yours to be able to share insight so that we can be able to drive our missions, our organizations, and the goals forward.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, if a leader is listening in right now and they can improve just one emotional intelligence skill this year, what should it be and why?
I'm going to go back with understanding themselves. It's really looking inside. How am I showing up? And that's why when I start my keynotes, my workshops with that little phrase, we got to get up every morning, put a smile on our face, because that's what a leader is. You're guiding people, you're motivating people, you're the inspiration. So where are you in yourself? How do you see yourself? What's your own personal brand?
Tracy, this has been, I always feel warm when I'm talking to you. And I know that the leaders listening in from all over the world feel that same energy right now. Where can people find you? How can we continue to support you? And what are some things that you're excited about that are happening over the next few months or a year?
Well, the first thing is they can find me on LinkedIn under Tracy Solarek. So my name is likely on the piece here, or underneath my face. And my website is optimumpotential.com, but OPTY, because we want to understand the why, MUM potential.com. And what I'm excited about is I've signed on for a few keynotes locally. One is for their New York State organizations. So I'm really excited to unveil potential for New York State employees. So that one is in Saratoga Springs, New York. And then I'm also going over to Niagara Falls to do a keynote and some workshops there. So it's the continual unveiling potential for people and meeting them where they are, and hopefully they're elevating their confidence. That's what I'm excited about, to really focus on helping people and educating people.
Tracy, this is exciting. It really is exciting. For anybody listening right now, I want you to go through an unveiling process. I want you, before you start thinking about how we can drive our productivity forward, how we can hire more people, how we can grow our revenue, I want you to ask yourself this one question. What can we unveil about what we're currently doing that is not meeting the needs of the people that are contributing to our team?
Yeah.
Because it's bigger than us. It's bigger than every single person that's listening in. And we have to be able to create environments where people can thrive, but it requires listening. It requires empathy. It requires for us actually caring about other individuals outside of ourselves. And like Tracy has continued to communicate throughout this podcast episode, it requires emotional intelligence. So I want you to listen to us right now. And I want you to go follow Tracy on her platforms. I want you to go check her out on her website. And then, like she mentioned earlier, we have to understand the why before we do anything. So she's going to be able to provide you the tools, the methodologies, the tricks to be able to understand all of the other things that come after. But you have to be willing to receive the coaching, the support, and the advancement that she's going to provide. Look, if this is your first time listening into this podcast, we welcome you, we thank you, and we'd love for you to review this podcast episode. If you've enjoyed it just as much as I've enjoyed it, share it with someone, like it, and subscribe to the Contagious Culture Podcast Network. One of the questions that we always end with in the Contagious Culture Podcast for our listeners is, what type of culture are you spreading? The energy you bring is the culture you create. So go make yours worth catching. My name is Kyle King. I'm here with Tracy Solarek. It's another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast, and we'll see you all next episode.